Very good.
Adverse reactions to vaccinations.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning of this dude.
That vaccine and a judge on whether I had 3 daughters, and my spouse and I had differing opinions on whether our children should be vaccinated with the COVID vaccine.
I will pause. Can you hear me as well? Am I clear? Am I enunciating correctly? Fantastic. Ha ha. Woohoo! Whoop, whoop, whoop. Shall we continue, comrades? Oh, God.
And a judge orders that vaccine be injected into my daughters. I'll give you a little bit of data first.
Okay.
And this was part of my reasoning with the courts. Risk versus benefit, correct? From 2018 to 2023, if we trust the CDC, their numbers say the most deadly thing for our...
Christina, thank you for shouting out Igloo. We love Igloo. Igloo is awesome. Hello, Igloo. There are three amazing Canadians. One of them's in the chat. The other one, you probably know the other two, Igloo, actually, come and think of it. Oh, 4. Fuck, I've forgotten her name. Hildy! Sorry, Hildy. Naughty, Katie. Naughty. I forgot Hildy. So, the other two are Maple and the Mayor McCheese. I love all 4 of yous. Do we know how Hildy's doing, everyone? I miss Hildy. She was awesome.
Our children, the number one deadly thing, do you happen to know what it is?
Guns.
Accidents. Not necessarily guns, but accidents. Do you know what the number 2? And I'm going from children from 10 to 14 during the height of the pandemic.
Well, a little bit before the pandemic as well.
A little bit before, so the numbers are a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice
The
one.
number
Cool.
2 cause, suicide. Do you know where COVID...
Come on, NDP. Oh, is it going to be the Liberals, or is it going to be the Tories? Do you think, Igloo? The way the polls are looking, I was looking at them earlier on today, by the way, just to check in and see how Canada's doing. It looks like your new PM, well, the one that's taken over, is going to be your actual PM. Have fun with him. He used to be the governor of the Bank of England as well. Obviously, he's Canadian. He started over in your land, obviously. Then came over to Britain. Had some fun. You, Maple, Hildy, Mayor McCheese. Technically Lance as well. He's Canadian. Oh, you're fucking kidding me. Why? Didn't he fucking... God damn it. At least they're not the Conservatives. I get that. I can just about survive the NDP. They seem relatively decent to me. Obviously, still Marxist. None of them are perfect in my eyes. But I could live with the NDP being in charge, but obviously the polling for them is looking kind of shit. Sorry, Jagmeet, my dude. But look, you're going to have your brilliant banker daddy as your PM. Have fun with him, by the way. At least it's not going to be Pierre. Fuck. I was actually trying to think who's worse. Fucking Pierre or fucking Harper. Mind you, in saying that Harper was his own brand of evil, wasn't he? Fuck. Can I treat your Liberals like our One Nation sort of Tory, not this right-wing fuckwits that we've got just now in the Tory party. They're just lunatics to me. That's why I said I'd prefer it to be the NDP. I really would. Oh dear God, I forgot Peacefire. Oh, I'm such a naughty girl. I need to apologise to Peacefire now. Fuck. It's been about a week and a half. I got out last week. Christ, it's been closer to 2 weeks since I've actually been in chat because I've been in hospital. Damn, sorry Peacefire now. Forgetting about you, my lovely comrade. Technically, Lance. I don't. Why are they dumping the NDP for the Liberals? What the fuck, Canada? Don't do that. Ugh.
COVID is on that range of dangers?
Very low.
Very low. That population is about 21 million children in the United States between 2000
and you still want to put them at risk, you absolute fucking lunatic.
There were about 4,000 to 7,000 accidents, about 1,000 suicides. Do you know how many deaths there were from COVID?
No, not offhand.
69. In New Jersey, where I'm from, the height of the pandemic, do you know how many deaths there were? 0. Now, are you familiar with the VAERS database?
Yes.
So that's for adverse reactions to vaccinations.
Yes.
During that time...
If you don't know what you're reading when you go into that database, you shouldn't be going onto it. I know what I'm reading when I go into that database, by the way. I know exactly what I'm seeing when I'm reading the data on that. And I can explain it to you if you like. It's easy enough if you know how to read databases and know what you're looking for. Essentially, most educated people, most people can understand what's happening when they're reading the VAERS database. But if you're going in clueless, if you don't know what you're reading when you're seeing this database, you have no idea what the data is, what it's saying, and how the data is actually accrued. I know how the data is accrued and how it's getting catalogued in VAERS. If you don't know how to read it properly, please don't check it out. Ask someone. Ask your primary care physician, our GP, essentially, your first point of contact, your primary doctor, essentially, your GP, PCP, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Ask them. Get them to explain how VAERS works. And they can explain to you how to actually read it properly and what everything means, basically. I know what I'm saying when I look at that database. It's mostly used by, obviously, medical professionals and researchers. People like myself, doctors, blah, 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 virologists, epidemiologists, those kind of people. If you don't know how to read it properly, if you don't know what you're looking at, please do not look at it. Ask your GP, please, first, or people like me.
Time frame. This is about 6 months out of that period of time, from December of 2020 to July of 2021. The VAERS database, which is the only database we have, there were 14,000 post-COVID vaccination deaths. So how, if you're looking at risk towards benefit, is injecting a child up risk towards benefit?
Okay, I'll read this straight Arrow News fact checked. There are 19,310 total adverse events labelled death under the VAERS self-reporting system following COVID-19 vaccine. The website said submitting a report to VAERS does not mean that the healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contributed to the death. VAERS reports are unverified. Some of them can be verified. It takes a while for the shit to be verified, actually. That's why I say, if you don't know what you're reading and what it's saying, please don't read it. Oh, God. It hurts my brain so much.
Is injecting a child, upholding what we call the Hippocratic Oath, right? We talk about the Hippocratic Oath and we extrapolate from that.
Please don't call it the Hippocratic Oath. There's more to it than that, by the way. Actually, thank you. People use that as shorthand, and what everyone quotes is the first, do no harm, so no, incorrect.
One of the first things, it's not said in the Hippocratic Oath, but it's the first thing is to do no harm. Now, as a police officer, I took oath as well. Protect,
that is incorrect,
serve,
sir.
preserve life and property. In my line of work, there are times when I had to take a life to save one. I don't necessarily think that applies to you, Doctor.
It does not.
Maybe you can give your viewpoint, whether maybe you're for or against, a court ordering the children to be injected with something that there is no harm to. But now we're seeing actual harm with the vaccine. They didn't die from the disease. They're dying from the vaccine.
Yeah, so your point.
Evidence, please. Sorry, I'm being stickler. Evidence, please. Now, thank you very much.
Point is very logical, and you're very well researched, and I applaud that because most people will go off their feelings as opposed to looking at the data as you did, so I appreciate that. When you point out that there's been 69 deaths, you said?
A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Case in point.
Correct. Between
from the
that
CDC
time,
data.
If we trust it.
If we trust it. And then there was 13,000, 14,000 deaths?
14,000 according to the VAERS database.
Are you familiar with how the VAERS database works?
I am.
Do you know who can report to the VAERS database?
It's a voluntary report system,
By
so
who?
it's open.
By
It's
who?
open, either to patients, medical providers,
Loved
anyone.
ones, anyone. During a heated political time, during which people are very angry and are reporting things that do happen during a pandemic, isn't it possible that there's people reporting things that after we look at it and judge it off of the VAERS system, that it is in fact not shown to be causative, but in fact a coincidence or a correlation?
So yes, I would say that correlation doesn't equal causation, but I'll give you another data point to chew on. When I was a law enforcement officer, I saw people that were dying, and then when they were assessing the cause of death, they had a range of other morbidities. And just because they died with COVID, they didn't die from COVID. But getting back to the children, none of them did.
I think the reason why 0 children died.
The dangers of having a philosopher in the chat. Well done, Scrippy. Thank you. I use it more in the colloquial term. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing because a lot of people have a little knowledge. I have a little knowledge, but it is specialised knowledge, so I know what I'm talking about. A little knowledge over a wide area, very dangerous.
There you go, get the anti-vaxxers.
Huh?
There you go, get the anti-vaxxers.
Hang on, Super Hubby is being a jester at the minute. Fuck it, give me it. I'll show chat. It is a straight edge machete because the man is a fucking nutter. I'm married to a fucking lunatic. God, I forget how weighty this bastard thing is. What weight is this thing?
That's 2.5 pounds.
Christ almighty. So he wants me to come after the anti-vaxxers with this fucking thing. I'm more used to katana, by the way. Or a saber. I could do a saber. That thing's too fucking heavy. I'm not in the jungle. Like I said, I am married to a fucking nutter.
I don't see any problem with this. What's the problem with this? It's quite late.
No bloody well isn't. What? Fucking launch my laptop. I'm not buying a new one. I'll use your credit card to get me a better one if you destroy it.
I don't have. Well, I don't intend to hit.
Fair enough. He was bored in the... Oh, he's putting away in the cupboard. What's that banging? You did actually. And Dean. Hi, welcome. Well, look, it's Dr. Mike it's not 2016 anti-vaxxers, not 20. But dear God, save me, these people are kind of idiotic. But I will say, I will try to save them. Obviously, I don't know who these people are. Well, he says he's in New Jersey, so I suppose that's relatively easy for me to get to if I can afford it. Not that my medicine can get in, of course.
Is because we immunize so many, A. B, the fact that the court ordered you to do it, it's not really my place to judge. Because you have two parents that have two decision-making capacities, and someone has to make a decision. I don't know what's right. I leave that to people who are smarter than me. I can talk about the science of it all. And when we look at the science, yes, COVID is a low-risk proposition for children, but it's not a zero risk. When we look at the COVID vaccine, especially at the peak of that pandemic, when we were seeing hospitals overflooded, when we were losing people left and right, that was our sole way out of that pandemic. So the fact that 0 children died with the vaccination rate that we had, I suspect that the vaccine played a major role in making that happen.
All right, I'm sorry, we're out of time.
I'd love to go with that one.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism to be the standard highest filter recorded. Happy to be straight from our... Click the... Also straight to it.
Go away.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Mike.
Pleasure.
Pleasure. I want to say first that I'm a mother of 6 children. My oldest 2 children do have
Hello,
vaccines. My 3rd child, he got a vaccine that the doctor said were safe that caused him brain issues for the rest of his life, and he has arrested hydrocephalus. I want to continue to say my youngest 3 children have no vaccines at all. They're perfectly fine. They're advanced. My son has permanent brain injury. So they say vaccine immunity is better, but as a child, when I got vaccines, I ended up with spinal meningitis. I had chicken pox twice. I almost died. But my 3 children that don't have any vaccines are perfectly fine. They've been traveled over 20 states during COVID. They've never got COVID. They've never got sick. Just a healthy diet, keeping them away from toxic foods, making sure their hygiene is good. Did you know that COVID has a patent and natural illnesses can't have patents? Did you know that every illness dated back to polio has a patent? The only thing that doesn't have a patent is the common cold. Did you know that Fauci funded medical schools to try to make the vaccine make COVID more deadly? Vaccine immunity is not really a thing because they cannot guarantee it makes anybody immune. There's more.
Oh my! Oh, that's a lot to fuck. That's a lot to deal with. Fuck. Oof. I swear to God, people like me and other people who actually try to debunk these anti-vaxxers and stuff like this, taking a 10-minute video to debunk what they're saying usually takes over an hour. So an hour and a half of these people, it's going to take at least 2 or 3 days to get through everything, what they're saying, and debunk it all. We've got other shit going on. And the people who can actually debunk this properly and educate people, they're busy doing other shit. Oh, dear God. Oh, fuck. I don't know even where to start with her. Devon, my lovely person. Oh, dear God. Okay, let's carry on.
Side effects from getting a vaccine than to not get a vaccine. The chances of getting illness not vaccinated versus to getting vaccines is a lot higher than somebody that doesn't eat toxic crap, practices good hygiene, they're more likely to get illness vaccinated versus not vaccinated. There's studies that show unvaccinated children are more healthier. In Japan, they don't start their vaccine schedule, I believe, until 2 years old. Autism is almost non-existent. And this is something that needs to be documented. Dated back to polio, everything has a patent except for the common cold. Mad cow disease, Spanish flu, COVID, everything has a patent. So that leads me to believe Big Pharma has been ruining our people for generations since the Great Depression, since, like he said, Rockefeller agreed to fund medical schools and the education system around 1920s. Since then, illnesses have increased and increased and increased and increased and increased, and all we ever needed was to take care of ourselves and have good hygiene.
Something I think our healthcare system doesn't do enough is say, I don't know. And I have no idea about Dr. Fauci's patents. I don't know about patents on viruses. I'm a family medicine physician. That means I work in a clinic where people come in with either an acute complaint, something's going on with them, or they're coming in for a preventive physical where we can get ahead of things and make them healthier by preventing illness. In fact, if you think about where pharma's profits are, if pharma had to choose between preventing an illness or to treat an illness for the rest of someone's life, financially speaking, they'd probably want to just treat someone for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
But that's not what vaccines are. Vaccines prevent that illness. They prevent it from happening. And when you brought up the subject of autism, I think it's an important subject, and it's a subject that's been largely debunked by the entire world community.
Not at all.
Oh, look, it's this one again. A small debunked study in 1990 incorrectly suggested a link between vaccinations and autism spectrum disorders. The study was reviewed and retracted years later, 12 years later, by the way, by the Lancet after finding several elements of the paper were incorrect. This is not a doctor anymore, Andrew Wakefield. This was my second year discussion paper that I had to do. I got angry. I went to my lead and said, you do know that I was involved during this period. I lost my friend because of him. Did you? Yes. I hate the man with a fucking passion. Said, no, sorry, I didn't realise. Oh, you're from Perth, aren't you? Said, yes, I am. There was this there was a few kids who died, and one of them was my friend because of this bastard. So no, the man is scum to me. I lost my friend because of him. And it turned up years later when I was doing my degree 22 years ago now. So no, yes, it got debunked by the Lancet far too fucking late, in my opinion. He did get struck off, eventually, 6 years after the paper was published. And 6 years before it was actually retracted by the Lancet. So no, I have no time for this absolute fucking ghoul of a human. I hate the man with a passion. And doing that study again, they distributed my paper to the rest of the year because they were so interested to see someone who is actually involved in the whole, tangentially involved in the whole controversy surrounding Wakefield. It was interesting, to say the least, seeing it crop up again in my life when I was older. I get it, fine, fair enough. Karma, I guess, really. I got lots of hugs and saying, so glad you made it through and stuff like that. I said, yeah, but a lot of families got traumatised by this man, so no. The man needs... Boom. The man needs that, in my opinion. He can stay over in America as far as I'm concerned. If he even attempts to come back over to Britain, I'm pretty sure a lot of angry families will want to say hello in a very physical way, let's put it that way.
I've seen studies that say otherwise, doctor.
If you want to see a good video about it, check out Guess Who? H-Bomber! Should be on his channel somewhere to watch it. It's just under 2 hours. 2 hours long? You can go and check it out. So, Harris has done one. It's quite good. I appreciate it.
So I don't know if you're going off Rockefeller's medicine or are you going off of holistic medicine as well. As a scientific mind, you're supposed to observe everybody's hypothesis, not just Rockefeller's medical schools. And that's why I feel like you got most of your knowledge from. And maybe you should branch out into holistic medicine because vaccines have never been the answer. They were created to separate us from spirituality and consciousness. If you look at the ingredients, there's nothing healthy in vaccines. Formaldehyde, all types of stuff. So none of that prevents. Everybody that vaccines still get illnesses. I've never seen any prevention of anything.
The prevention from vaccines comes from prevention of death and serious illness. And we've seen that when you study that, not just in the US by the Rockefeller system that you described, one of the largest studies in the world surrounding vaccines and autism in children came from Denmark.
I've covered H-Bombs one. It will be on one of my videos if you check my channel out. It should be somewhere in there. I can't remember what one though. I can look out for you, Scrib, if you want. I can highlight it for you and you can watch it if you want. I could do one on myself. I can go through them again. There's lots of research things on YouTube and other places that I can go and check and do one for myself. And because it was part of my degree, I can pull my second year paper down from the cloud. It's still up there, sitting there, just gathering dust. Well, digital dust. I can bring that one down and use that as a basis for a video I could do, I suppose. I will need to try and keep myself calm because every time this bastard comes up again, I just get irrationally angry for, well, obviously apparent reasons. But yeah, maybe I'm more older and maybe I'm a little bit more tolerant now because he isn't actively affecting everyone's lives anymore. I will get angry, obviously, but I'll keep myself calm and collected and just say, fuck off, Wakefield. In a cool and calm tone. Oh! Were you in chat? Oh my god, I know what one it is. Nice one. Yeah, I've talked about the H-Bomb one before, and I've talked about Wakefield before on a couple of my streams last year at some point. So yeah. Oh god, I did get kind of angry, didn't I? Fuck. Like I say, I do get angry with this bastard. He deserves it, obviously. I'm glad he got struck off.
With over 500,000 children. That is not a US system, that is not a capitalist system, and they found that there is no pattern.
That's not true.
I'm trying to branch out as much as possible.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Please
Thank you so
return to your
much.
seat.
Bye, Devin.
Hello, how are you?
So I want to take a minute and put the ball back on your court because you mentioned herd immunity earlier, correct?
Hello, Grant.
Well, COVID was COVID one of the most contagious viruses we've had, pretty much?
I don't know, historically speaking, but it was definitely incredibly contagious.
Okay.
In fact, because it wasn't so deadly, was the reason why it was such a problem.
You want herd immunity. How would we achieve herd immunity if a virus is so contagious that wouldn't it spread across the population before we get it all vaccinated?
Not every vaccine can create.
Depends what virus it is. Seriously, it depends what virus it is. And it depends on how it's transmitted from person to, well, zoonotics are harder to track. When it gets transferred from bats, pigs, cows, like horses, whatever, blah blah blah, fish, blah blah blah, whatever fucking thing that is not a human, not a mammal. Tracking that bit, the way it transmits to us is difficult, but once it's in us and tracking it in us, depending on who it gets put into first, obviously, you can track it from there. But again, we are very mobile. We can go anywhere within our means. Obviously, lots of people can travel all over the fucking place rather easily. Globalisation, isn't it amazing? Don't get me wrong, I do like globalisation for some things. Good thing. Kind of. But tracking it is the difficult part. That's why I praise epidemiologists. Those guys are fucking geniuses at tracking how this shit works. I'm better at how it affects us once it's inside the human. And what it does to us and how it changes us and how it makes us feel blah 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 blah. I like that part of it. And how to prevent it getting into us. Good. I like. And studying how the thing fucking works. Virology, obviously the study of viruses and vaccines. So I like the side of it once it's in us and how it affects us. Epidemiologists track it, how it moves through the population, how it affects us, what it does, blah blah blah. Those guys are brilliant. I love those people. I didn't want to go into epidemiology. I can get maths. I'm good at maths. I got an A in my higher maths. I've done quite well. Very proud of myself for that one. I'm better at studying how it affects us, affects the human, and how it occurs in the environment. That's why climate change is fucking bad. This is probably going to get worse.
Herd immunity, but it can create herd protection. There's two different types of viruses that exist, and there's long incubation diseases and there's short incubation diseases. The simplest way I could explain it is how quickly you get sick after you're exposed to this infection. That's short incubation. So if it's fast, it's short incubation. If it's long incubation. Now, when you look at a disease like smallpox, for example, that's a long incubation illness. It means it gives your immune system a chance to create a response to it. So if you've been vaccinated, even if you've been vaccinated a long time ago, your body has the time to create protection even after it's been exposed. For short incubation illnesses like the common cold, influenza, COVID-19, it's very difficult to create complete protection. Because even though you've gotten some protection from getting the vaccine in a short period of time, that immunity wanes, and the long-term protection you get is only...
Plus, because of these SARS viruses, we're variant chasing now at this point, which is difficult. Because the more it hangs around in the population, the more variants are actually possible. That's why you've got Delta, Omicron, blah, 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 blah. The more it's in the population, the more it has a chance to change its characteristics, change how it affects us, change what it does within us. So we're basically variant chasing at this point in time, which is never a good thing. Because if it finds something and it loves, and we can't pick it up quick enough, it'll start going through the population again at great speed. The worst one at doing this, and wipes out our immunity and memory, is measles. So, dear God, people in West Texas, New Mexico, and the surrounding states, please be fucking careful. Please get your children vaccinated, if you please. And if you can, everyone, of all my lovely Americans in the chat, do not go to West Texas or New Mexico, or Eastern New Mexico. And is it in Oklahoma yet? I can't think. It might be in Oklahoma now, but there's other pockets across other states and stuff. So I'm getting freaked out at this point.
Only valuable against serious illness like death, hospitalization, etc. Okay. So you can't get perfect herd immunity for short incubation diseases.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my follow-up question is that there were certain groups of people who were exempt from getting the COVID vaccine, like if you were under a certain age or over a certain age, or if you had immunocompromised problems or whatever. So if those people can't get the vaccine, and those are the people who are most vulnerable, and a lot of people in this room believe, well, a lot of people's natural immunity is good enough to fight the disease, then like, why would we?
We don't know that. Grant, my dude, we don't know that. Okay? We don't. That's why we try to get as many people vaccinated as fucking possible. Honestly, that's why we do this. It's one of the main reasons that vaccines was created. We can't know that. We can't go around and ask every single fucking human on the planet. It would take a while to do that. That's why we try to get a certain percentage of the population vaccinated, so the ones who can't get it, the ones we know we've identified that can't get this vaccine for whatever fucking virus it is, we're protecting them by getting the most people vaccinated in the population. This is why it is done. Okay? Ugh. We can't know everything. That's obviously it's difficult trying to find everything out, especially where people's health is concerned. We need cooperation from everyone, and that's not possible, obviously. So we can't know this stuff. That's why we try to vaccinate as many people as we can. I think that's one of the best things I've ever said, actually. We can't get 100% vaccination rates. It is not physically possible. 95 is good. 95 and above is good. I like. Anything above 87%, I'm also happy with. Obviously, the higher the better. Anything below 70, anything below 80%, then you're getting into the danger zone. Anything under 75%, deeply dangerous. Lots of people are going to fucking die.
You get the vaccine when the people that, you know, if they can't get it, then they could die anyways, you know?
Yeah, so by the point of that is by getting the vaccine as a healthy person, I believe that's better than having natural immunity. And that doesn't mean that by getting the vaccine you have a better response or a stronger response. In fact, many times actually getting the disease will give you a better response. But do you know what you have to do in order to get that response?
Like get the virus in you?
Correct, which means you have to have all the potential risks of having severe disease, death, and largely we've forgotten how serious these viruses and bacteria are, where in the 20s, in the 50s, and the 80s, the deadliness of those diseases has been largely forgotten. One of the vaccines we give to children is called Haemophilus influenza. That causes meningitis. We don't see that anymore. The residents that were trained 20 years before me, every time they were in the emergency room, they learned how to do a spinal tap to diagnose this type of meningitis because of that bacteria. I've never learned how to do it. I'm not trained how to do it. Now we have to rely on interventional radiologists to do the procedure because of vaccines. So the reason why I say that vaccine immunity is better than natural immunity is because you don't have to survive the actual illness.
Okay. Well, that was my question.
Thank you.
They could get another guy.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That was easy.
Hey, Dr. Mike, Eliezer.
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as
I
well.
was actually binge watching your videos this week, thinking it was going to be you. I didn't think it was going to be you. But, you are very good faith, which I respect. Can I ask you a question in terms, because as a vaccine skeptic, the burden of proof is on you to show that vaccines do work. So what evidence would you have that vaccines actually work?
So vaccines, unlike other drugs, and there have been claims made about this in the wrong direction, where people say that vaccines aren't as tested as, let's say, pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
What the freaking hell? Hi, Conrad. Not me. Nightbot, fucking stop it. Hang on. Oh, Philippe, I love you. Thank you so much. I like that clip. I like it a lot, thanks. Oh my God, we're going to have to show Shanna. Shanna, sweetie, are you here? Thank you, Philippe. Much appreciated. Mwah. Love you.
Because vaccines are given to healthy people to prevent disease, we test them an incredibly higher amount than pharmaceuticals. So that means pre-market testing before we bring them out. That means while we give them and after. We actually have a system called the Vaccine Safety Data Net that monitors millions of doses of the vaccines to see if a pattern gets elucidated through giving the vaccine. So we have all stages of the vaccine process monitored because we are trying to do our best to make sure that we help children and adults when they are due for a vaccine.
Okay, so you just, at the end, you said it pretty much sounds like you have to.
Round of applause for Philippe, everyone. Praise be, the man is a genius. Thank you so much. Well, I'll need to make sure that every time people put a clip up of me, it's going to be that one. I like. Thank you.
Have a good intention. For example, we're not in the labs actually seeing the vaccine process or the clinical trials, so we have to just take the experts' word and trust it, right?
Well, when you fly in a plane, you're not in the cockpit.
Right. So we put our faith in that. So you would say that we just have to put our faith in the experts, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this would require, number one, a good intention. So they have a good intention to help people, to make their lives better, and also they have to be ethical. Is that correct?
Those are reasonable things, yeah.
Okay, so if they fall outside of the purview of those two criteria, would you say it is reasonable for us to be skeptical?
I think it's reasonable to be skeptical at any moment.
But taking those two things, if they violate either of those two, would it give someone else more justification to be against it?
Sure.
Okay, so when we look at the biggest developers and distributors and sellers of the vaccines, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, all these big pharmaceutical companies, when we look at their track record, we see they have been deceptive. They've had big settlements, billions and billions of dollars, fraud, misleading the public, concealing clinical trials that were against their favor from the public. So when we have to put our whole faith and trust in these people that have been through huge billions of dollars of settlements, and they have proven that they have been unethical, they have made more profit through the COVID times than ever before as well, why should we trust them so lightly, taking into consideration the fact that we're not in the labs with them, taking the fact that they are profiting from our well-being? Why should we trust them so lightly?
It's not a blind trust. Who you're trusting is the independent reviewers that review the data that they put forward.
Okay, but is this political or is this science?
Health is as much public health as it is individual health.
Okay, but would you say guys like Dr. Peter McCullough or Dr. Rich, would you say that they are probably not good experts that we should adhere to?
I don't know who those people are.
So they're very anti-vax, or they've provided solutions like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and they've stated over 200 peer-reviewed studies from different types of trials showing the efficacy of those kind of medications that are alternatives to COVID or the vaccination. But what I'm kind of getting to is that we're supposed to trust this specific agenda. So Pfizer, WHO, which once again, if we look at the track record, they haven't had a great track record. So it sounds like to me it's more of a political thing instead of a science thing. When you guys say trust the science and trust the experts, you actually mean this group of experts. Because whenever big experts like RFK, even if you want to say he's not a doctor, he's not licensed, but his friends, Peter McCullough, Dr. Rich, they are great experts. They've had some of the most reviewed studies in the medical field. I don't see why we have to deny their science and their expertise and go with this set of people.
I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, you have to look at consensus. And when you look at consensus, not just the United States, you look at the WHO. This is a world organization. This is not a United States organization. In fact, we just pulled out of the WHO funding-wise. So this is the most unbiased you can get. Can you erase human bias from research? Absolutely not, because it's done by us, and humans are inherently biased. When you talk about Pfizer's past mistakes or whichever organization you want to choose from the pharma side of things, to be skeptical of them is so important. And the way that they've been lacking transparency for a long time, especially when it comes to pricing and the way that they've chosen their development of medications, I'm the first person to admit that that is valuable. But when we say Pfizer, where we say Purdue or one of these pharmaceuticals, there are people that are working there that are researchers that you're talking about. The shareholders, the people that are investing in those companies, are a different set of people. So when we get data from Pfizer and is brought to the advisory committee in the CDC or the FDA, these are independent bodies that are trying to verify through a peer review process if that is true. They're trying to do their best with the knowledge that we have. Will we have perfect answers? Will there be mess-ups? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you just throw everything out the way and say, hands up, we failed before, so we can't fail again.
I would agree that there's a difference between mistakes and deception. So deception is an intent. You're intending to have malice towards someone, right? You're intending to make more money by lying to the public. You're intending to make more money or more profit by not showing all the clinical studies that were conducted that show adverse reactions to the thing that you're putting forth. So that's where I would also make a delineation that there's mistakes, which we can all make, and I would also say science can make mistakes, but then there's this other section, which is an intention.
How do you judge intention?
That's the thing is with these kind of companies, we have to assume good intention.
All right, sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Welcome in, one of my original mods, Fighting Gale. Hello, darling. How are you? I hope you had a good day of trans visibility. You're now hidden again. We cannot see you. Oh dear. The visibility days always make me laugh because every time I see any trans, any non-binary, any bisexuals, any lesbians, any gay men, any asexuals, it's like, no, I can still see them. They're over there. Look, there's one over there. I can see you. Always funny. It would be, Philippe. It would. What would I do if I was invisible? Haha! Vaccinate all the anti-vaxxers' children. Sorry, no, that might be considered assault. Round them all up, maybe? You know?
Hello? Pleasure?
Exactly.
So knowing that there are side effects that do come along with the COVID vaccine, which is irrefutable, it's a risk management. And in any circumstance, if there's a risk, there must be a choice at all times. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's always a choice.
Well, there wasn't a choice September 9, 2021, when Biden instituted the OSHA mandate with all federal employees and every business over 100 employees. Would you agree with that?
I still think it was a choice.
So when you say it wasn't a choice for all the service members that were part of the military that refused the vaccine, they were dishonorably discharged, did they have a choice?
They had a choice.
And what was their choice?
I'm not saying whether or not this is a fair choice or if I support the choice, but it was a choice.
Okay.
Just like with children, in order to go to a public school where by choosing to not vaccinate your child, you're potentially putting other children at risk. You could choose not to put them in a public school and therefore not be mandated to get the vaccines.
Everyone has the ability to make a right choice for them and their family. And if you are able to fully understand with informed consent, there are many, many risk factors, especially knowing that there's no long-term studies, not one.
Sorry, time's up.
Thank you. My next claim is that RFK Jr. is a public health threat. Good to see you again, sir.
Yes, sir. So why do you think he is a threat?
Hello, Elazar.
I think when you're trying to put someone in a position of authority of a health agency, you want it to be a person who understands science and follows factual narratives.
So if RFK appeals to other experts that are anti-vax because they've seen sufficient evidence otherwise, would that be heretical as well?
I think that RFK's stances of why he's a public health threat go past the anti-vaccine stances. He's made public statements that HIV doesn't cause AIDS, that poppers, which is a party drug or a recreational drug that people use, is really the reason why AIDS exists. That is not someone who clearly understands science, and I don't want them in charge of a health agency.
Okay, assuming he does become head of the health department, wouldn't he now technically be considered the expert, not an expert, but the expert?
No.
So then, if he put something forth that was anti-vax, and he said we have sufficient evidence to prove this, and then other medical experts such as you, which are pro-vax, went against it, wouldn't now you be categorized as the wrong ones?
No, because it's not based on a single person's opinion. This is a consensus-driven statement, driven by thousands of doctors, dozens of agencies, not just here in the United States, but worldwide as well.
Okay, do you allow your patients to write bad reviews about you if they had a bad experience?
It's not my choice to write it or not write it.
No, do you allow them? Or would you remove it?
No.
No what?
I would not remove it.
Okay, so if we look at Facebook, Google, YouTube, they suppressed so many anti-vax posts, legitimate declarations of they were injured, serious deaths. ABC News went on Facebook and they put...
Elazar, my man. I think you're a man, I would assume. You generally present like a man to me. If you're not, I do apologise. Elazar, my person, my individual, hello.
YouTube, they suppressed so many anti-vax posts, legitimate.
The reason they do this is because they don't want to get in trouble with the governments of said countries. Wherever they operate, whatever country they're in, blah, 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 Europe, America, blah, 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 Canada, USA, Central and South America, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me, sorry about that. European countries, UK, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, blah, 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 Scandinavian countries, whatever. They don't want to get in trouble. That's why they always have little hints, see, like the one down here that everyone can see underneath the video. Vaccine information. For me in Britain, this is the one that links to several pages that the British government have put out for us to read, if we want to read them, of course. These social media companies do not, well, Twitter, fuck you Elon, not calling it X, it's not the everything app, not yet at least, so fuck off. It is Twitter, so, Twitter is slightly different, it still has them. He didn't completely fire everyone that does that sort of job to make sure that he doesn't get any trouble with, especially European countries, especially here in Britain and people, countries in the EU, blah, 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 European countries in general, ones in East Asia, blah, 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 all those ones, Japan, China, blah, South Korea. They don't want to get in trouble and get slapped by the government saying, stop fucking doing this, don't promote this sort of BS. It's bad enough trying to deal with it, the pandemic, without all these fucking nutters. That's why they do it. They are covering their arses. Which is a very capitalistic thing to do. They still want to make line go up. Need that moolah, essentially. So that's why they do this. It's not that they're not suppressing you, they're just trying to keep their arses covered from the governments across the globe. See, I can make anything boil down to capitalism is the problem. Funny that, really, isn't it?
Declarations of they were injured, serious deaths. ABC News went on Facebook and they posted a simple question. Who do you know or yourself that was seriously injured from the vaccine? Over 200,000 comments that were then removed by Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg just went on Joe Rogan and he said that Joe Biden, the Biden administration, forced them to censor people.
Okay, in case anyone can't read this, Straight Arrow News, fact checked. Later, CEO the Zuckerbot told Congress that White House officials repeatedly pressured Facebook to censor certain COVID-19 content. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it, Zuckerberg wrote in an August 2024 letter. He can say that all he wants, but as long as Meta actually do this and put it on Facebook in general, he's still covering his ass, but he can say whatever the fuck he likes. Have to remember, must make line go up. That's why most of these social media people, or social media owners, blah blah blah, are fucking massive hypocrites. All they really care about is the fucking bottom line. And like I keep on saying, for-profit health is fucking stupid.
So if someone really believes in their product, why would they do mass censorship to hide it?
I'm a family medicine doctor. I have no idea why they're censoring certain websites or not censoring certain websites. So that's outside of my scope.
Well, that's outside of your scope, but just using logic, just using reasoning. You said you would not remove your patients as bad reviews, so why would we allow these experts to then remove those kind of critics?
Last that I checked, no doctor removes patient bad reviews. No doctor goes on and hides comments. I mean, maybe they do it on an individual level, but not on a systemic level.
Okay. I would just say that RFK Jr. does appeal to other experts that even if they're vaccine skeptics, they put forth legitimate studies that would be antithetical to the pro-vaccine studies. So you said earlier, misinformation. I would ask, who is the author of misinformation?
Who is the author of misinformation?
Yeah, so misinformation, first off, is predicated on the fact that there's right information. Right information is going to be predicated on the fact that there's absolute truth. Does science state absolute truth?
There's no absolute truth, period.
Right.
In fact, there's a great book that I recommend everyone to check out. It's called The Half-Life of Facts, to see how what we consider now a fact, how quickly it could change. And in science, what I consider someone who would be a good fit and not a public health threat to lead the agency is someone who's aware that facts can expire, they can change, they can adapt, but they have sound logic as to why they make those decisions, and they don't make statements carelessly with bad information, knowingly bad information.
So if truth is provisional, this means that science, that right now you can be pro-vax, and next year when you see sufficient evidence, you can be anti-vax, correct?
You could.
Okay, perfect. So if there's no absolute truth within this realm, I don't know why we should completely rule out RFK Jr. and the other experts that he could appeal to.
The reason I rule him out is because he takes information that is not true, like that poppers cause AIDS.
Subjectively true.
It's not subjectively true.
For the time being, because you just said it's provisional truth, meaning it can change with time.
Right, but you can create any sort of statement, and in healthcare, we can't just go off of any statement because someone feels subjectively to be true. We have to do our best to do with limited information that we can. That doesn't mean we have zero information, we should just believe anyone. In fact, have you seen these podcast hosts who have protocols by which they sleep, eat, or Gary Brecka or otherwise? The reason why I don't subscribe to their protocols is because anyone can make a claim about anything, just like RFK does with these statements. Until someone backs up these claims with good substantial evidence, and there is a hierarchy of what good substantial evidence is, we won't believe those stats. The same way that if you sat across from me right now and told me you're the fastest human on earth at 100 meters, you might be telling the truth. Provisionally, subjectively, it might be true. The only way I'll know it's true is if we have an Olympic timekeeper with an Olympic device measured with the proper measuring tape. Then I can witness it, and then I can see it's true.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Elazar. Devin's back.
Hello again.
Hello again. I would like to start by saying that HIV does not cause AIDS. AIDS is actually brought on when your white cell count goes below 200. So to say that HIV caused AIDS is inaccurate information. It's actually when your blood cell count goes below 200. I do agree some things he says skeptical, such as climate change is real when we know that there's weather manipulation weapons and patents. However, majority of what he says about vaccines is true. When there's so many, have you heard of the military doctor Teresa Long?
No.
She said that spontaneous abortion went up 300% in the military after they mandated the vaccines. There's been several doctors that have came out and spoke of the adverse reactions. So how is it that vaccine skeptics are the villains when some of the top doctors, some of the doctors that help create PCR tests, some of the doctors that have worked on vaccines have came out and said they're unsafe and we should not give this to our family and friends? How is it that he's a villain? How are we a villain if some of these vaccine creators and scientists are the ones saying we should not get it?
Is there anything I could say today that would change your mind?
I'm just asking your opinion.
I'm asking you a question.
Probably not, because I actually read and study.
Well, if I can't change your mind,
I just want to know your opinion.
Yeah, so I would like to give you my knowledge, my experience, and what I've seen in the hospital system. But if you're telling me right now, no matter what I say, you're not going to change your mind, is there any value to that?
Well, I like to study everybody's opinion. I don't like to just say, I believe this, and not further investigate everybody else's opinion. But when studies show the unvaccinated are actually healthier and the vaccinated are the ones that are getting COVID and dying and getting heart problems, and over 100-something after.
A scientifically flawed survey of unvaccinated Americans claims unvaccinated children have fewer instances of chronic illness than vaccinated children. The survey did not see control factors, which means they did not have a blind. For instance, soliciting responses from vaccinated and unvaccinated groups in the same manner. While there were several reports of cardiac events and even death among adolescents, teenagers, and young adults, up to about the age of 24, I think. The CDC investigated these associations and found no data to support a link with the COVID vaccine. Like I said, I don't know how to deal with half the stuff that she's saying. Don't get me wrong, I have faith in my degree, I have faith in my own knowledge and stuff, but trying to combat this stuff, God, ouch. I get irrationally angry at times with some of these people for obvious reasons. I'll leave this to more cool-headed people who actually know a lot more than I do. Trust me, there are people out there who know more about the stuff that I've got my degree in. Plenty of them. Oh, for fuck. God damn it, Nightbot! Sorry, Philippe. Just ignore it. If you get timed out, I'll bring you back.
Athletes that got the vaccine got heart problems after being perfectly healthy. I think it's unsafe and actually more so villain-like to say it's so safe and call people that are anti-vaxxers skeptics when over 100 athletes that are perfectly healthy are injured. Over who knows how many in the military cannot have kids or have had a spontaneous abortion or everything because of this. So I feel like it's an unfair statement to say he's a villain or he's unsafe, but then continue to say you believe the vaccines are safe and effective when millions have died or suffered from adverse reactions. So I'm just trying to understand your perspective. I need to see if we can fix Nightbot.
Yeah, my perspective is, if you, like the American Medical Association put out that over 90% of doctors got vaccinated. There's no epidemic of doctors having negative outcomes, dying at alarming rates.
There's saline shots as well. There was a doctor in Australia that came forth and said that at least 10% of the vaccines that were going out were saline shots. And this has been proven by an Australian doctor that some of the shots that were going out were saline shots. So how are we to say that some of these doctors didn't know ahead of time of Agenda 21 and got a saline shot? It's kind of impossible to say.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Devin.
Mr. Mike?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Luna, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
There's so much trust invested in you and your
Ron.
research and how you look at things and how you look at data. So I imagine you have a mountain of stuff to look at. When you mentioned the RFK thing, right away what got in my head is like, I don't know nothing about him really, but I know he was a Democrat. If I'm not correct, if somebody...
He ran as for president as a Democrat.
Okay, so that's why that was a big thing when he transitioned to shaking Trump's hand, right? That was like a big political move.
Yeah, for sure. It made news.
Does that have a bias thing if you don't like Trump?
No. So what's interesting about this anti-vax movement is people are very quick to label it left, right, center. It's not. If you look back at the history of the anti-vaccine movement, it started initially on the left in democratic circles.
Okay.
And then over the last few years with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's become more prevalent on the right. But it's not mutually exclusive. It happens all across the board. And I empathize with you as a
Mike
new
is correct,
father,
actually,
how
for this
difficult
one.
it is making this decision, hearing all these statements. Because ultimately you have to decide what to do.
Yeah.
And if you choose to get the vaccine or you choose not to get the vaccine, both of those carry consequences.
Yes, I get what you're saying, but to call me a villain...
Correct, Scribby. Yeah. Did you see my post earlier? That's Leviathan and the Death of Expertise winging its way to me in about 12 hours. There's only so many times I can read Reform or Revolution before I start thinking, yes, I can start the revolution on my own. Ha ha ha. Don't get me wrong, I praise Rosa. I love the woman. But it'll be good to read